this episode, we're going to talk about your PPE and the supplies and what to look out for, what not to look out for. So join me as we talk about all things PPE and supply. So recently there's been some serious issues. The supply chains have been compromised because, well, a lot of people are sick, a lot of people are, well, needing to recover. Businesses are being shut down because it's a safeguard to prevent large numbers of people being exposed. So this has caused problems for, say, supply chains, for just doing business. Only so many different types of businesses can do satellite offices. Only so many businesses can have people work from home. So what about those businesses that need workers in the field? What about those businesses and, say, healthcare centers that need to be open no matter what happens? The essential services. As we get further and further into the COVID, we're seeing a lot of people getting back to work. How are we going to protect ourselves from exposure? So the PPE that we're now dealing with respect to COVID-19, gloves, face masks, sometimes respirators, gowns, barriers, face shields. Why is this? It's to prevent you, say, touching a contaminated surface, touching your mouth, breathing in bad air or the aerosols from somebody sneezing. So what's available? Well, there's been N95 masks. Those are absolutely essential, but because there's been such a run on these N95 masks, they've become very short in supply. And the ones that need it, such as the healthcare professionals, should take priority, rather than, say, someone who's just a convenience clerk at a 7-Eleven getting you your lottery tickets. What about, say, the first responders, such as paramedics and so on? Again, N95 or full-on respirators. So it comes down to, what's the PPE? So we got gloves, we got face masks, we've got eyeglasses or full face shields. Some companies are now being able to provide face shields locally, and these aren't such a big issue in terms of supply because there's enough companies that are down that can easily and quickly produce face shields. That type of a problem is not as big of a problem. But what is a problem is respirators, proper N95 masks and such. So the supply has been coming from China. And so as, say, a health and safety supplier or as a health and safety person in your company, or say someone who's just wanting to get proper masks, it's difficult to find something to use. So for, say, like if you're just going out to the store, you can just get yourself a face covering, and there's so many different companies now that are, and even people who are out of work who are seamstresses, who are now just making good, comfortable fitting face covers. You can find it online, Amazon, wherever. That's easy enough to do. But what about other places? Say you're working in construction and you'll go through masks like crazy. Well, the supply chain has been compromised because in China, a large number of suppliers were providing material that was just honestly garbage. In Italy, they did this one little special where they were showing the gowns that they're supposed to wear. They're putting them on, and they just literally tear the moment they put their hands in. So the problems here are quality of product, the product itself, and where to find it. A lot of the product that is now available has gone way up in price. Again, a negative. Quality is a negative. So what do you take and do? So a lot of things such as face shields can be found locally, and a lot of these are generally very reasonable at the local level. Face coverings can be anything from, say, your shirt just over your nose and your mouth. Gloves, thankfully, are becoming more available again. The run on them is stopped, at least somewhat, so the supply has been able to pick up. N95 masks, well, countries like Taiwan and outside of Taiwan, such as in America, are starting to ramp up production. So the shortfall from that is going to, in the longer term, be addressed. But in the meantime, what do we need? Like, how do we fill in these gaps? This is where, as a supplier or as a, say, a purchaser, you've got to trust your suppliers. So contact with the local governments to get who their preferred suppliers are. So if they're still importing from China, now, say, like in Canada or in America, they're only going through officially sanctioned suppliers. because China was noticing that a lot of the stuff that was being supplied was garbage. So China's cracked down and no longer are allowing every person with a production facility to create it. And if you look at some of the news reports, you're seeing unhygienic conditions and people who were just like getting a sewing machine together and creating whatever the hell those, whatever they call them, but they weren't proper protected masks. Where the shortfalls are still happening is in the face masks. So you're seeing a lot of, say, you'll see them, they're the surgical masks. They're starting to come out in stronger supply. Again, not the best covering, but any covering is better than nothing. You're seeing a lot of seamstresses making custom face masks. Again, not the ideal, but they'll probably be better for you right now than anything else. You're seeing local supply make up the difference for, say, like surgical gowns and full face shields. So as a supplier, you've got to have your wits about you. As a purchaser, you've got to have your wits about you. So the recommendation that I have for you is find the local government sources and get the preferred suppliers. If they're importing, join with any, say, the national schemes, so that if you put in some money up front, you'll get at least some kind of a supply. Phone around 3M and any of these other large suppliers will probably provide you with something good, but it all comes down to what your preference is. Do you want something that will just be, say, cheap and easy, or do you want something of quality? And that, again, it's just going to be trial and error. I'm sorry to say it, but if you are able to get a trusted supplier from, say, China, well, great. Or look to Thailand, look to Vietnam, look to Taiwan, look to other countries, because there are other people stepping up to the plate and are showing, saying, hey, we're not from China and we actually do take pride in our product. Myself, I personally find any of the Chinese supply to be very suspect, because quite frankly, I use masks all the time in my work because I work in construction. But the quality from China has been honestly garbage. Some of it has been better, and that's good, and it's getting better, and the Chinese government is helping to at least catch up with that. But that's very short and far between. So the recommendations that I have for you is find trusted suppliers, call around, be prepared to spend more money on your PPE. It's unfortunately just the way it is. The supply is shrinking, and just as anybody who knows anything about supply economics, shorter supply, more cost. More supply, lower cost. Find local suppliers wherever possible. You'll probably get better quality, and you'll probably develop better relationships with these people. If you trust your source, work with it, and if you don't use it. Keep looking. Develop your own supply chain. Find other ways of doing things. If you don't need PPE in your area, and you can get away with just, say, like having one worker in one area and continually cleaning, do it that way. Develop your own supply chain. Get locally where you can alternatives that will do the job for you. Look at how your jobs are being done. See if you can work without the PPE if you don't need to, because exposures are kept. You can use, say, a different cleaning regime that will prevent, say, exposures. Check your air and ventilation. Do you really need a respirator or something of that nature? If you need your workers to be working close to each other, get them used to wearing those masks for longer rather than just one time. It all comes down to find a good source, trust your sources, and wherever possible, there are other supplies. It may cost more, it may not cost as much, we don't know. As a purchaser, you have the ability to make good decisions. It all just comes down to, do you trust your source? Do you trust the quality? Do you get enough supply that you need? This is going to require changes on your part. It means, do your workers need this type of gear? Do they not? Can you have people work from home? Can you have workers split out and do, say, one part of a process by themselves and then hand it off to someone else, etc.? So it requires change, it requires trust, and it requires thinking about where your supply is coming from. And on that note, I'm Darren. This has been Danger by Degrees. If you're still watching, since you're watching this, hey, why don't you join with the Danger by Degrees crowd? Be one of the cool kids. Like this, recommend it, share this, spread this around. Make it viral like Corona, but not... Remember, Danger by Degrees is not as unhelpful and not as unhealthy as Corona. Corona, bad. Danger by Degrees, good. Remember, share the love, and thank you for watching Danger by Degrees.